All right. Part 2, baby. Part 2. Can't make the file too big. Because then you can't upload it, can you?
Let's go back. When I say no one understands the system better than I do, it doesn't mean I
You always
understand.
sound like a doctor. You're afraid he's going to get sued for giving a thing.
Yes,
you're not,
no.
gonna, you're
No,
not
no,
taking
no.
on any liability. There's no contingent
Yes.
liability here for
Yeah,
your
no,
answers.
no. But the word understand is the problem.
Okay.
I don't understand the system. So I don't understand the financial
Will you
system.
please stop? You cannot sit here and
Yeah,
tell me
no.
what we just went through. I'll go through it
That's pretty surprising. But maybe you just understand some of it.
again. The hedge fund managers, the money managers, the central bankers, the commercial bankers, the heads of the investment banks, the heads of all the trading desks, the top economists, and I'll throw in the business school lecturers at Stanford. Of all the top 200, 250, you can't name at the top of your head the guys are at least at your level. You have to understand it somewhat.
No. Sorry. We all don't understand it. No one understands it. It's a miracle. It's that's part of the problem. It's impossible to understand. That word understand simply means if this happens here, that will happen there. It's predictable. Understanding means it's predictable. It's not predictable. That's the problem. It's
okay.
In complex systems, that was the fascination. Is there a way to tease out some level of predictability?
So even
No, in fact, you would ask the question, it's a great question, which was it a stroke or a heart attack? Now, most people don't know that before they were going to have a stroke, they had a stroke. They just have a stroke. Do they understand why? In hindsight, you go back and you can make lots of explanations that might sound good, and if you're talking to the working man, you're using language that he'll never understand. It's complex. So he, just like going to his doctor, he says he has a gastrointestinal problem or he has diverticulitis, as opposed to saying, you had a stomach ache, you ate bad food. People don't like to say it in normal, everyman terms. The system had a stroke, and we don't know why.
But you just, okay. Hardworking people, and there's a great social benefit, would you not agree, with having people having ownership in the system?
When you say ownership in the system, it doesn't mean.
Let's start over.
Okay.
So flip
Sorry.
over your phone too, because
Yes.
I don't want anyone to see
Yeah.
what's on your phone. So maybe flip it down or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what the fuck comes up with that phone?
That's correct.
We don't want to send you.
KSA.
I can't not believe I've got the magic moment when you're in fucking prison or jail, wherever the fuck it is,
It's
in
crazy.
solitary.
Now, there's a funny part to that we missed, which is said.
Go ahead, tell it.
The funny part is what you asked me.
Is there anything funnier than that?
No, no.
For black humor, it's
I don't make any black comments. Sorry. You asked me what I was wearing.
That's right. You're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
Yes. So I was
Wow. He said, yo, you too wrapped up in it. Wow.
wearing a brown jumper and a brown pair of pants given to me by the jail with the word trustee on the back.
Because you had qualified to be a trustee?
Well, the funny part was it was spelled Trusty. So I wasn't really sure. I'd been a trustee in many different operations, but it was the first time it was actually printed on my back and spelled incorrectly.
Probably had a higher level of being a trustee at that than you had at all the boards that you were trustees, right?
Yes, because as the trustee meant you get two devices to clean your toilet as opposed to one.
Yeah, but it also meant that you had some sort of personal fiduciary own responsibility for one.
And also, they gave him Hershey. I never even heard of anybody even getting Hershey in jail. What?
Himself, right?
In the jail? You
Well,
mean?
that's what being a trustee is. That's where they give you two.
Yes, you get two cleaners. To try as a trustee.
What, two toothbrushes? 3? One for your mouth, the other 2 for the toilet? Nah.
In the jail because I was able to teach some of the kids to help them get their GED.
Okay.
So that's how they gave me a trustee job.
There's no time. I got to go back to this because I'm like a dog with a bone in this thing.
Yes.
You can't.
Man, come on, man. Ain't just no food commercials. I'm trying to see how Maury Jeff, how he was teaching these people financial literacy or whatever.
There's something deeply fucked up with you.
Wow.
At least something.
Well, we know there are things deeply fucked up with this. You will get through in this film,
Right.
but you cannot possibly sit there knowing that you came from nowhere, knowing that you went to the very top of what is considered outside of science and maybe physics, the thing people most admire because it's like alchemy, understanding high finance. To sit there in what will be the defining financial crisis of our time, like Black Friday or Black
Yes.
Monday, whatever it was in the Great Depression, and be there at that exact moment, triggered in part by a firm that you used to be a partner in and knew intimately well, and it created much of your initial net worth because of, and know that you couldn't, someone who lives on a phone, right?
Yes.
Because you do live on a phone, right?
Correct.
You had to collect calls. You cannot tell me sometime during that day you did not have that conversation with yourself of how the fuck did I do this to myself to put myself in West Palm Beach in a 6x9 cell with a metal fucking
Man, you asked this question 3 times already. You think he gonna answer directly? Let's see what he
bed
say.
with a brown shirt that said trustee spelled wrong.
Spelled wrong.
So did I find it amazing that I was there? That's a
Not
better-
amazing, and I don't want to say it's
No.
not funny. Oh, I thought it was
I wasn't funny.
Right.
But
not
I-
amazing.
no, it was incredible.
Incredible in what way?
This-
Incredible, like how do I do this to myself?
No. It's as incredible as me sitting here in this house. They are both just two sides of the coin. That's how I think about it. That my life today is incredible.
Do you consider yourself a stoic?
No. I consider myself a hermit. Stoics are not very happy.
Being a hermit then, being in that 6x9 cell, being in the cell qua the cell was not the problem, right?
Correct.
What was the problem?
Eating the almond joy bars.
Because you couldn't eat the food.
No.
Shoot, that's only a problem if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic.
But remember, my life is.
Did that ever strike you that I can't eat the food because somebody might have done something to it? I gotta live off an almond joy bar, 1 a day or 2 a day or whatever.
That's
ever
crazy.
sneak in a day?
No sneaking in.
Exactly. No sneaking in. He knows people. He knows people.
Your 1 almond joy bar, it did not hit you at some time? How the fuck did I do this?
No.
And I'll do it again. Basically, what you saying.
Let's go back to the spring of 2008. Were you so wrapped up in your personal issues at the time you were not spending enough time on the financial markets, or were you deeply involved in the financial markets like you normally were? In
No,
the spring
I was involved.
And you, so we're saying that the smartest guy in the room didn't see it coming.
No, of course
The
not.
bankruptcy of
I mean, who does? Who sees it coming? Even career criminals, they don't see jail coming. Somehow, they just don't.
Stearns, you just thought was a Bear Stearns problem.
And he just might be a career criminal. Who knows?
You didn't see it as systemic.
I know you keep harping on it, but it's not.
Because you're a mathematician and understands systems.
I-
It seems that anybody that understands that they had a systemic problem, you at least be the first on the early search radar. If you're not going to see it, then I'm really afraid, because that means that I always assume there's at least a set of guys out there that have some sort of sense that something's not right.
Imagine the guy who has a stroke or had the heart attack. When you ask him, did you feel funny the day before? He's going to tell you, yeah, I didn't feel right. Something was off. I didn't feel right. I had my stomach was right. I felt a little dizzy. I felt a little weak. But if you asked him that day before, do you think you're going to have a heart attack tomorrow? He'd say, no, I just feel a little weak. I'm a little dizzy. My stomach hurts. So these systems, and that's the issue of complexity. What complexity says is that, in fact, everything seems to go along, and people have seen it. One of the great examples of complex systems is sand dunes. In fact, the sand keeps building up. People have seen some, and all of a sudden, one more sand drop, and all the sand starts running down the hills. That's the way I see the financial markets.
When you funded Santa Fe in the early 90s or late 80s?
I believe it was early 90s. I can get back to you.
But early 90s, Santa Fe was funded for the study of complexity theory,
It was studied with math. So let's back up. So why did I buy a ranch in New Mexico in 1993? So that gives you some sense. So I would have funded it in 1990. Los Alamos, which was the high energy lab up in New Mexico, was losing all its scientists.
And Los Alamos, it was where Oppenheimer and where a lot of the nuclear weapons program, the bomb.
That's where the
original
Manhattan
bomb.
Project.
Manhattan Project was
Yes, sir.
as Los Alamos, and you bought your property out in New Mexico to be near that?
Yes, because the scientists were going to be, they cut the funding for high energy physics. But the people who worked in Los Alamos would still be in the Santa Fe area.
They cut that because this was the Cold War dividend, right?
I don't remember exactly why. It was because, again, people thought that physics and high energy physics really wasn't that important.
Because that was about nuclear weapons.
No, it was because they decided, which may be not right. This was the same time that Murray Gell-Mann came up with the term quark, Q-U-A-R-K. He picked it out of an old poem, the word quark. But it was it was mysterious. So
Isn't that the green guy from Ratchet and Clank?
they were starting to understand in the 90s that our world of the physics world, there was things that were just unexplainable. They called it strange things. You gave it a name. You gave it some characteristics. You called it had charm, was one of the terms. It had a charm. It had a flavor. It had a color. But no one, Mr. Bannon, understood what it was. Just like the financial system.
And you wanted to investigate that?
I wanted to see if we could build tools so others smarter than me could help investigate it.
And that was the beginning of your concept of the Santa Fe Institute?
Yes.
And Santa Fe Institute was founded to do study in this type of...
Can these areas of strange things be described by some form of mathematics?
So that's what I'm trying to get at. The foundational thought, the organizing principle of Santa Fe
Yes.
in the high physics lab at Los Alamos,
Right.
which had been the headquarters of Manhattan and the Trinity Project, right, the bomb.
Yes.
So you're talking about the elite, the high priest
Of physics.
of physics.
Yes, sir.
Which high priest of physics, some subset of that is also mathematics. It's math.
Yes, they're both similar.
Project out. One of the tools you want to do is to make sure that in this complex system, the finance system, I'm doing a lot of this for philanthropy and a lot for the good of mankind, but also to be able to understand this complex system, the most complex outside of maybe our body, of the financial world.
Yes.
Did they create tools, or were you smarter in than the mid-aughts, 15 years later, than you had been then because of work that was done at Santa Fe?
No. It was great. But in fact, most of the money, most of my philanthropy in the area of can you describe things that appear to be unexplainable by mathematics, and can you fund people who have new ideas? And unfortunately, when someone thinks they've been able to, there was a man, Stuart Kaufman, when they think okay, I figured out how to be able to predict the unpredictable, what appears to other people to be unpredictable. But my system, in those days it was called genetic algorithms, can predict what things will happen, and they all want to make money. So they use their systems to try to figure out, they know they have figured out the way to make money because they figured out the unexplainable. They try, they go bankrupt, and we start again.
Grip.
Damn, man, come on now. Damn, tire moving by itself? Like it's AI? It was up. Yep, they just start over because they can afford to, and because of who they know.
So with a cold view, what I've come to realize is that the attempt to mathematize, formularize, or what in your prior work, to understand what really is, in today's world, still unexplainable, is impossible. They're miracles.
Your first head of Santa Fe was Christopher
Langdon, I think.
Langdon from Australia.
But Murray Gell-Mann was
Murray Gell-Mann
was the funder. He was the
yes,
rock.
Yes, he was the rock. He was a Nobel Prize winner?
Yes.
Yes, and a wonderful guy.
Which rock? Black rock? No, I'm just playing.
came out and helped us with the Biosphere 2 project. He came with Chris Langdon.
Yeah.
Chris Langdon was the operator, the day-to-day guy.
Chris was doing artificial life.
Right.
Murray tried to lead his own artificial life.
Yes.
Artificial life? What are they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing fembots, are they? I don't know.
When Chris came to Biosphere 2 for the first big conference we had in 1994, he was one of the most impressive guys there among all the world's elite. Kew Gardens, the Lawrence Livermore Lab, the labs at Sandia, all the major universities, Lamont Doherty, all the big Earth observatories, Woods Hole. What set Langdon apart, I thought, and the reason I invited Santa Fe to be part of it, was Langdon actually made a presentation that everything, and he was making this to scientists, a lot of marine biologists, a lot of people that were just beginning, Wally Broker and people who were just beginning the study of climate change, at that time called global warming. That he made this compelling presentation that everything's really mathematics.
Yes.
It's all just back to math. And you have to, all these experiments you do, you're not, one of the reasons they're not considered by the high priest in physics as being real experiments is that they don't have a mathematical basis to it, and everything has a mathematical basis to it. Langdon seemed like a radical visionary. What happened to that concept?
You go back 350 years. So you have Isaac Newton, you have Leibniz. From move forward, you have people like Heisenberg and Gödel, and what every one of those mathematicians and philosophers came to understand is that there's something there's numbers can describe certain things, approximate certain things. But in fact, trying to put measurements and numbers on other things that are really unexplainable is folly. So 300 years ago, they said that unexplainable realm was God. And people who attempted, in fact, to explain the unexplainable, who said, yes, I understand the unexplainable, were charlatans, they were the occults, they were the astrologers, they were the con men.
Alchemist.
Yes. Well, no, alchemists was, in fact, they believed that there was a way to transmute one metal into another. In fact, they always wanted to see if they can create gold. There's no reason, if you think about it, they recognize that one metal is different than another metal because it has some additional pieces to it. It has additional neutrons or protons or electrons. So, because they thought it was a machine,
So the alchemists, they sound like scientists.
they believed it was a machine. If I can take 5 protons and add 5, that gives me 10, I should be able to get gold. Move everything around inside these systems, the
So they're trying to get rich.
molecules transmute one molecule into another, and if this molecule I've transmuted it into is gold, I'm a rich man. It's back to
There
money.
you go.
But this
Money, 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 Vince. Give everybody what they want. Money, money, money.
something strange happens. Isaac Newton says, this is really weird. If I want to push a ball on the table, I have to touch it. Maybe I have to blow on it. But I actually have to push one side of the ball or the book to move that side. I'm pushing here, and obviously this thing is what appears to us humans to be solid, so it moves as one thing. But the only way to get something to move was to touch it or put a force against it.
Yeah.
Okay, seems to make sense. Everybody has that experience. I want to lift a glass, I lift it. If I want to push a ball, I push it. If I want to pull a ball, I pull it. But he recognized when the ball fell off the table, it went in a different direction. How's that possible? Nobody pushed the ball down. And he said, this is crazy. Why did the ball go down? I didn't push it. I just let it go. So someone's pushing the ball, because I am confident that the only thing that gets something to move is with a force that pushes. So there's a force that's pushing the ball down. In fact,
Gravity or something?
he called it gravity.
Oh, there
He
you go.
measured how fast it was pulled. but never was able to explain why it happened. How is it? What is gravity? It's this. Everybody says, well, why did the ball fall to the ground? Because gravity took it. But what's gravity? That's, as Feynman would say, that's the name of the thing. We have no idea what it is. This goes to Santa Fe. They were trying to explain the unexplainable. Can we measure, can we figure out a way to predict the stock markets using these types of chaos complexity?
Before we get there, let's walk back through it. Let's go back to Newton.
Sure.
Pre-Newton and then Newton. What did Newton solve that for millennia up to Newton had not been solved? And then I want to go forward all the way to Santa Fe and what they were trying to solve. Let's start with just two or three of the basic guys, but let's go with Newton. What pre-Newton it was what, and then why is Newton such a
genius?
In such a in the, I think mathematically they told me one time, I've seen there's been 115 billion people roughly that have lived on the earth. And of that 115 billion, Newton.
Are you sure that's a number? That sounds a lot very high. We only have 7 now.
I think in the history of the earth, I think I'll pull up the stat for you, but I think it's 115 billion people they figure.
Sure, in reality, it's only 10 million. No, just playing.
That probably is inflation. That's why
have lived on Earth. But he's on the handful of the most important. What did he solve for? Why is he so important for how we live today? And then we want to go through Leibniz and the other 2 or 3 other major ones to get us to Santa Fe.
Well, it's a long journey.
This is the heart of what we're trying to do.
Let me take a bit of a detour just a second. What if you went to high school and the last year in your high school, you took calculus. So Isaac Newton sort of invents calculus. Well, that sounds mathematicians.
To torture seniors in high school before they graduate.
Yes, but obviously no. Yes, the answer is yes. Certain people could never do calculus.
Why is that? Why is calculus so? Why is that the dividing line between?
Question is though, is it in the math category or science? I don't know. Sound like it's math.
To me, people who can handle that and can go on to do certain things, and people just hit the wall, even if they know math. It seems to me that there's that calculus is the thing that changes. It bridges. That's because it's about the theory of change and the theory of how things change.
It's a great question, but in fact, what calculus does is it's somewhat philosophical. That's why mathematics is. Newton wasn't a mathematician, he was called a geometer. That's what they used to call themselves. They understood geometry and numbers. But there's an old conundrum where it says, during Pythagoras' days, Zeno's paradox it's called, where they said, well, if the wall is 2 feet away from me, and I take one step that's halfway to the wall, that'll be 1 foot away. And if I take another step that's half again, that'll be half a foot away, and then 1/4 of a foot. I could walk forever but never touch the wall. Doesn't sound realistic, doesn't make any sense in our real lives of the physical. But what Newton understood is many problems were like that. Many things approached the wall, or in calculus, approached the limit, but never really reached it. So he said, it's okay, you don't have to reach it. We can do lots of the mathematics as if it was so close, it was almost there. And we could do lots of mathematics almost being at the limit. And this is really important, Steve, for today. Because most of the science up until today was things that are starting to approach the limit. You were taught in high school that if you had 1 divided by 0, if you remember your high school algebra, you were told, what's the answer to that? Is there an answer to 1 divided by 0? No, if you were in high school, I'd say, stay away from it. It's the boogeyman. You could write it down as it's undefined. It's not able to be determined. There's a bunch of things. But in fact, 1 divided by 0 is a strange things happen. It's a world of the strange. And what I'll explain to you after is that when you get 1 divided by 0, you get into a world we don't know what happens. The answer is it's not explainable. We can call it things like undetermined. We can have a convention to say it's X, Y, or Z, but in real life, we don't know what happens when you are actually at the limit. So,
with Popeye's new $5.
I mean, you can't divide anything by nothing, and that's what 0 is. 0 is nothing. There's nothing you can do with that.
Newton thought the same concept is that the limits were God. You got close to God, but you can never be God. He had this sort of religious interpretation.
That's facts.
Okay, I want to go back to Newton. Why is Newton such
And to be honest, you can't even get close. Can't even get
a
close.
big dividing line in mankind?
He's too high up.
What is it about
Most
Newton?
high.
What is it about what he's trying to solve? What did they not know beforehand? And because we live to a degree in a Newtonian universe, although I realized later subparticle atomic physics, but at least for a while it was Newtonian. So what's the dividing line? Why is he so important? Why is he an inflection point in mankind's movement from the swamp to the stars?
It's a great question. The stars were by Kepler. What Newton starts to allow us to do is to make accurate predictions. Remember that we've talked about that with money, about the things in our physical world, how cars, he didn't have cars then, how horse carriages moved, how bowling balls moved, how pool cues and pool table balls.
Had people tried to solve that before Newton? Had
Many,
people
many.
tried it? Heraclitus or Plotinus, Pythagoras had these greats that we hear about, had they tried to solve the same problem?
Not the same problem. They try to, again, what Pythagoras does, he starts to figure out this relationships in triangles. For example, everyone knows the a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, that Pythagorean theorem, which is basically says these shapes in a triangle, each side of the triangle has a fixed relationship with the other two sides. That's strange. He knew, again, but it was all numbers. This was a system of things in the physical world, and Pythagoras says we can start putting numbers on things that help you predict how they will behave. You can add 2 triangles and make a square, some different shapes. They were looking at geometric forms. Newton says, well, I want to know how planets move. I want to know how things around me move. Can we find formulas? Can I find formulas that explain what I see in the physical world, how physical things interact and how they describe one another? Again, the fact that two solid masses, for some very strange, unknown reason, unknown today, attract one another, no matter what they are. People have seen the experiment. You hang something, 2 little metal balls from a string, and they move towards each other. In fact, they move towards each other was very specific. So when you drop the ball to the floor of this room, Newton says, in fact, the room came up a bit to meet the ball. The room moved. It's imperceptible. You can't really perceive that motion, but they attracted each other with certain ratios. So he started to be able to measure things in the physical world. And that was great advances. It also, now you wanted to move very quickly. Unfortunately, most people, especially in the 20th century, 19th century, said, well, like Newton, let's measure everything. Let's measure people's behavior. Let's measure their psychology. Let's measure their health. You go to we can have my blood test. Let's measure everything.
I thought about that. You know what that led to? This whole race thing. That ain't real.
Measure Wall Street.
Their voting habits.
Measure. Can we put a number on how much I care for my wife? Can I put a number on how I feel? And we tried, unfortunately, we try to mathematize the finer things in life, and then recognize that there's things that unfortunately just fall outside. Schrodinger wrote a very famous book about what is life. He was trying to figure out a way, can he describe the difference formulaically between things that are alive and things that are dead? The answer is no. The things that are alive in my world are miracles, not magic. Magic has a bad connotation,
We
trying
don't
to hide
believe in
things.
you don't believe in the spirit or the soul. That's what animates people, is your spirit or your soul. That's
No.
what have you ever seen someone die? When they die, their spirit leaves.
Their soul leaves, no question. So in
There's
fact,
no question to you about
no
that.
question.
There's no question to you that there is some animating life force within us that leaves when you're dead.
Yes, in fact, I refer to the soul. This, obviously, the questions in the past, even
Because
during
people would normally think you were soulless. So
So he is a theist to some degree.
Thank you.
But have you talk about you actually believe in it
He said thank you.
and
That's
have
not a compliment.
done some thinking about it is pretty shocking in its own right, isn't it?
well, again, mathematics, Leibniz thought.
So
Said,
no, Newton was at Cambridge, and he was the head of the math department, right? He's a professor,
Yeah,
essentially.
yes.
But Leibniz, was Leibniz a German professor?
Yes, but what Leibniz said is the soul is so strange because God took chemicals, which is simply the material, like tables, and he somehow made this material able to have a thought. How strange is that? Not only does it have a soul, but this some way it was put together that this material substance is able to think. So when you say to me, it's obvious to everyone that there's such a thing as a soul. Now, if you're part of the Charlatanville, you'll try to explain it to people. The soul I describe as the dark matter of the brain. Why is it dark matter? Because in high energy physics nowadays you hear terms of dark matter, dark energy. Again, terminology. It's a complicated term. Why is it dark matter? Because we can't see it, that's all. What do you mean you can't see it? Well, somehow we see something moving towards this area of darkness. Something, I can see this thing. This appears to me to be empty. It's just black. But I see it being drawn this way. So I say, well, I know if this were matter, that would follow that equation. If this was solid, it would explain the way this particle moves. But I can't see anything here. So I'll just call it dark matter. And I'll say, I don't know what it is, but it behaves as if there was something there. The soul is obvious to everyone that there's something different between things that are alive and things that are not alive. But we have no idea what it is. It's currently unexplainable. I believe we need an entirely different system of analysis to try to figure out.
Look, it's in the Bible. But anyways, he has an interesting way of thinking about things, as we all do. He's just famous.
No, with Newton, with all his alchemical studies and things he worked on the spiritual side, Leibniz had just talked about the soul, Schroeder talked about what is life. If a modern scientist or someone that you funded at MIT or at Harvard or one of these things talked in those types of terms, they would be considered to be a wingnut today, wouldn't they?
Probably.
They would not be on the path for tenure, right?
Unless they were in the philosophy department.
This is exactly my point. We're talking about three of the greatest mathematicians in mankind's history that have really changed mankind. Talking like this, what happened? How do we get to a situation where they could not be in the high physics, they could not be in the mathematics department or working in high energy physics?
Good, it's an easy answer. Newton was a combination of mathematician, or geometer then, and philosopher. And as time went on, those disciplines seemed to move apart. We had philosophy. Some of the philosophers can't do math, and some of the mathematicians. And again, mathematicians often break into two categories. People that solve problems. Those are more like geometers in the old days, just problem solvers. And then there's thinkers, theoreticians. They're more like the old movement towards philosophy. But neither one of those two groups have been able to figure out why something is alive as opposed to something that's not alive. No one's been able to describe what the soul is, but we all know it exists. And I think what we need is a new, science is a bad word. I think science only describes the things we already know about the physical world. In fact, there's an argument that the physical world that we see has been created out of our systems of mathematics. Mathematics, everyone knows mathematics describes the physical world much greater than it should, unless my view, the physical world really comes out of conscious beings that have mathematics. So they create it. This table appears to you and I to be solid. To a bat, because we have light that's bouncing off the table into our eyes, it appears solid. If instead of eyes that responded to wavelengths of visual light, our eyes responded to radio waves, the radio frequencies, it's not different, it's the same type of frequency as light, but different speeds, the table's invisible. We know that our phone works in this room. So the waves are coming through the windows, the waves are coming through the walls. So the walls are invisible to that type of radiation, that type of energy. The walls are, I can see them because my eyes, a physical system determines that the walls are there.
You, with Murray Geldman, you founded, or were the original donor, and had the idea of Santa Fe Institute. In 10 or 15 years later, that effort to study the complexity of systems mathematically.
Yes.
It's
a total failure. Yes.
A total failure.
Total failure.
Why is that?
It's the failure of science because, in fact, if to some extent science doesn't describe romance, I don't know why I'm attracted to somebody. I don't know. People are attracted to each other, and everyone has the same feeling. They've seen someone walk in the room, and they say, "Oh, that person gives me a creepy feeling." Science has tried to describe. Science doesn't describe what creepy feelings means.
So I guess that part is a part of the soul.
You just know it's a creepy feeling. I think women, as I said the last time, have an intuitive sense. What is intuitive? They have intuition, they have feelings, and they're able to deal in the realm of things that men, especially men like myself, find unexplainable. Women have intuition, men see things a bit differently. Men want to measure everything, women are not really that interested in measuring.
In what you're saying in macro terms, you actually think science, mathematics, maybe ultimately technology, is moving to that more intuitive?
I think science and math are old-fashioned. And unfortunately, people are still taught that they have to learn algebra in school and certain things in school, as opposed to learning to have an emotional...
Is this what Larry Summers...
Shoot, they need to learn some more. What's that junk called? Financial literacy. But instead they learn algebra.
was trying to get at, maybe didn't say it perfectly enough, but what he was trying to get to in that system, the systems we study today, the way mathematics is either taught or understood, that women just haven't gotten up to the highest realms of engineering or physics or mathematics because of that. And you're actually implying that there's a either new branch of science, or we've hit an inflection point like in Newton that's going to go in a... Newton took mankind in a different direction because he was able to measure. Then you had subatomic, non-Newtonian physics later. Are you saying that you think there's another developing field that's coming up that may take us, I don't know how many decades to get our hands around, but that's what's evolving out of this?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I think that mathematics, it's not the end of science. Every year someone says it's the end of, we can't discover everything. There's lots to discover with the relationship to the physical world, but we know a lot already. In respect to the unexplainable world, we almost know nothing.
Yeah, we still have to find, the planet that the Avatar people are from. I heard it's beneath the ocean. And that is called Mars. I don't know.
Women, again, sense it. And instead of Larry Summers, I won't digress too much, but Howard Gardner early on said, there's not one form of intelligence. It's not mathematical intelligence. There's emotional intelligence, this kinesthetic intelligence. You know, there's this argument that I reject that black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true. We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment. Yeah. So it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, but there's many differences amongst different types of people. And so people have different intelligences, and they excel in some intelligences usually, and less so in others.
Southern Fried.
Sure, that's true. That's true. I just start praying, 'cause I know I ain't getting away. I'll try to ask that guy next to me, what should we do? But if he don't understand English, I'm screwed. I'm gonna be like, fake. I guess I'll try to follow him.
When did it come to, because the world of high finance is a world of pure reason, or is it a lot of emotion and gut checks and you know, on trading desk and central banks when these decisions get made? Is it that high church, like the high church of science of high energy physics, or is it as much emotion that comes in as much as the mathematics and the reason?
It's a great question. I think if you talk to really experienced and successful traders, and you ask them how they know what's going on, they can't give you an answer. They don't know. They feel it. They can feel the way the market's moving. They can feel the way the stock's moving. And that these are not very well-defined terms. It's difficult to put in mathematics terms. How did I feel it? You could look back and make guesses what I was seeing. But great traders feel it and then act on their feelings. That's the difference. Many people feel it but are afraid because they want a mathematical justification before they take that next step.
When you first got on the trading desk at Bear Stearns in the late 70s or mid 70s, were you shocked by how little actual understanding of mathematics that the traders comprehended?
Yeah, well, again, we had a Texas Instrument calculator. Most stockbrokers, especially before 1975, if they were good stockbrokers, could add. That's about it. They could multiply. If you could multiply, you were already in the top 15% of stockbrokers.
Dang.
Stockbrokers simply meant there's a story. When I went to the first person, I had no money. And I said, how much money do you make a year? And he said, $400,000. I said, impossible. I'm making $10,000.
That's probably more than your family had made in its entire existence.
Yes. And he makes it in a year. I said, what do you do? And he said, it's too complicated for you to understand. Which is what the main thrust of Wall Street people, they want to tell you it's too complicated. Because if you understood that that person was simply, he had a brother-in-law, in fact in this case, who ran the pension fund at General Motors. His brother-in-law would call him and say, buy 1,000 IBM. He'd hang up the phone, he'd write it out on a ticket and walk it to a window. That was his entire skill set. Hello, write what my brother-in-law says, walk it to a ticket window.
He exposing too much.
Give me an example when you're on the trading desk in the early days of Bear Stearns.
It goes back to who you know. What you know is important, but who you know is probably more important.
Of a time that you felt either complete uncertainty or you saw total panic, where something was happening that people couldn't foretell, and that they were like in an airplane cockpit where it's going wrong. Walk us through that.
In 1978, I think it was, across the news wires, there had been a collapse of the currency in Thailand. On the other side of the world, had no relationship to me. I wasn't sure where Thailand was. But the fact that a currency, a country's money, had all of a sudden dropped tremendously in value, affected the rest of the world's markets. And people panicked because they'd never had never seen that before. A very small part of a very complex system had a shock throughout the whole system. So prices on Park Avenue apartments, the bond markets, the stock markets, every started to gyrate. You know, there's an old mathematics expression that if a butterfly wings in Mexico make the wrong turn, it spins out, and eventually, by the time it gets to Canada, it turns into a tornado. So these are part of complex systems. So yeah, Wall Street in certain parts.
Santa Fe
like
Institute
that.
was
Something
supposed
like
to
that.
actually come up with a formula for that, for the butterfly wings. Why in 15 years did you reach the end of at least that experiment?
Every attempt to, that's why it's so exciting now, because I think certain people are starting to realize that there's so many things that are unexplainable that we have to think about them differently. Music is a great example. It's a common man's example. You know, when you hear a certain song, it makes you feel a certain way. How does it do that?
It goes back to what I said earlier. It's the soul, man. It's the whole realm, spirit realm is what it is. What I think it is.
We don't know. We can't mathematize it. And even that music, Steve, nowadays we compress music. When you have a violin, it's compressed onto your iPhone. So what does compression mean? I'm taking lots of information and I'm cutting it into lots of pieces and squishing it together. And when I squish it or compress it, I have to take out lots of pieces, but I say that they're not very important pieces. It's those pieces that we take out when we compress data, to me, are the most interesting parts of life.
You just said a while ago, part of this new search for science may go back to when people were actually talking about a soul, and you said there's no doubt in your mind that there is a soul. Describe for me what you mean by that. What do you mean by soul? What do you mean soul different than the physical analog body that we're seeing on film right now?
It's difficult to describe in words. I mean, I'm not a poet. Poems get a little closer to what that really means. But even the concept of what is life becomes complicated when you deal with plants and seeds. Is a seed alive? I don't know. Certain people would say, no, it's dead. When you're a banana, one of my favorite examples is the banana that's sitting on the countertop in your kitchen today. Is it alive or dead?
What do you think about human life?
Shoot, the banana is alive. Until it get rotten, that's when it's dead. I mean, that's what I think.
What is human? Tell me about human life.
But your banana is alive. That banana is breathing. It's on your. You say that's impossible, Jeffrey. No, it's not.
Is the banana conscious?
All these words. These are words. So everyone's trying to fit a very complicated concepts into a very small box called conscious or alive. These don't fit in that way. So if you put your banana in a bag and put another fruit in with it, the fruit ripens faster because the banana breathes with it.
Oh.
We don't understand most of those things.
I should try that out.
You asked the big question. Sorry.
You talk about the life. What about human life?
What about it?
Tell me what do you think? What do you think
What about it? Let me stop.
human life is?
It's a miracle.
He kind of sounded like a villain. What about it? How about human life? What about it?
It's a miracle. And when I say miracle, I can't explain it, and I make no attempt to explain it at the moment. We don't know how to think about it. And anyone, again, another one of the Feynman quotes when he was talking about quantum physics. He said, anyone, Jeffrey, who says they understand quantum physics and quantum mechanics and quantum behavior, you know they're lying.
Let's talk about it. That's post-Newtonian. Talk about what's the difference. Who founded quantum mechanics? Why is quantum mechanics taking Newtonian physics and taking it to the next level?
It forms a much broader category.
Let's go back to this desk. You use the thing of Newton using this desk. Why can't Newton's theory explain everything? Why did subatomic quantum mechanics or quantum physics have to come in to explain this?
Well, so let's go right back to square one. Why is it called quantum physics? So quanta is a word that simply means packet, small amount. So it's quantized. So we recognized, when we recognized that this table appears, another very complicated word, solid to us, it's really made up of molecules or atoms. And atoms, we've given lots of names to what some of the behaviors. If you were in school, when you and I were in school in the 50s, the model was a little center thing in the middle, and an electron went around and around it. It was seen as a ball that went around and around it. And as we started to look at, say, well, let's see what this ball looks like. I want to be able to examine that little thing called an electron. We found that there was nothing there. There wasn't the thing. It was simply a cloud of energy that we can call an electron. So we already started to see mysterious things as we go into very super small quantities, quantum physics. So quantum physics started to go into the very small, and at very small distances, we see things that we can't explain. We just cannot explain.
How am I doing on time?
4 minutes.
Fine.
And to summarize, no, sorry.
Let's go back to human life. When do you think human life starts?
It's not these. So you see, this is the question. You're asking me to measure something again.
When do I start? Right in the damn ball sack. Come on now. Before that, it started in the Garden of Eden. Okay, that's where human life started.
It
can't be measured. You just hate making commitments.
That's why I'm not married.
I'm peeling this onion back a little.
That's why I'm not married.
All your bullshit and happy target can't be measured like that. Is that to say measure it's a commitment. You don't even like a commitment when you answer a question. As they say in golf, commit to the shot.
I don't know what it means to be measured.
You do know what it means to be measured. You're one of the leading currency traders, hedge fund guys, or stock market financial wizards. You're in the high priesthood of high finance. You certainly know how to measure. That's why you're a billionaire. Any other answer besides that is total and complete bullshit. And you know it.
Wait, the guy's a billionaire? I thought he was a millionaire. Ah, same difference.
I know very few things.
You know things can be measured. You measure every day. You weigh and measure every day. You weigh and measure people. You weigh and measure leaders. You weigh and measure economies. You weigh and measure politics.
It's a very good.
You weigh and measure. You weigh.
Hang on.
Your whole life, in fact, is measuring.
So what you've now done is a great thing, is you've used the word measure, a mathematic term, in the common vernacular and abused it. So I don't even recognize what it means. It's so abusive to my field.
Let's go to that. In mathematics, measure means what specifically?
There's no specific. It's an approximation, or giving something a number. Einstein said,
we're not asking you to go to the ninth decimal point.
You didn't say that before.
No, you're not going to the ninth. I don't even.
What if I say measure how tall are you? You'd say in your case 6 foot.
6 feet.
But is it 6 foot 1 inch?
Give or take, it's between 5'11" and 6 feet.
But what's that? But I want. So the question is, I want an accurate.
I got Zeno's paradox.
I don't even know what it means to measure you. Am I measuring the top of your hair, the top of your skull, the finer, the more.
You're being rabbinical. This is like.
I shaved my beard off. I used to be rabbinical.
No, my point is, isn't that going through the Torah where you're parsing every?
It's how I used to be rabbinical.
Every definition. I
shave my beard.
However we broadly define measure, your life literally is about measurement, is it not?
It's about putting numbers on things so that I can try my best. You can call it whatever you like. If that makes you feel better.
What do you know?
No, I want to make you happy.
Back to your scientific inquiry.
No, even a number. People don't. A number is a complicated
thing. When did you come to this When did you come to this aha moment? When it was in your solitary confinement, when the biggest financial crisis in world history was going on, in your 7x9 jail cell with your metal bed and your 2 brushes because you were a trustee, with the brown uniform on, trustee spelled wrong? Is that the moment of clarity that you had about science and Newtonian physics and everything that we can measure is really not going to be the way we go forward? It's going to be much more esoteric, emotional intelligence thing. Was that your moment of clarity?
I wish it was, because it would make such a great story for this interview, but it's not. It's the fact that I lead such a privileged life to come across.
But when did you? If it didn't happen then, when did it? Or did it happen before?
I was going to hopefully get to the.
Okay.
I'm in a privileged position to have some of the world's smartest people come to my house and tell me what they think about different subjects, and I finally realized that the thing that they had most in common was there was this area, no matter how smart they were, that when I asked them the questions, they said they'd have to resort to a 500 or 1,000-year-old response to that question, which was, I don't know.
You know who else found that out? Socrates. That's what Socrates kept doing, right? Socrates kept asking all the experts. He would go through, question after question after question, and realize at the end they didn't really know. They really didn't basically understand what they were talking about.
And one of the things that people won't enjoy, it turns out that potentially one of the bad things to teach children is how to write. So writing, reading, and arithmetic was everyone's supposed to be taught, but writing forces you into a very narrow channel of thinking. You have to write in a certain form, in a certain way, in a certain linear pattern.
First time I heard this.
So your thinking becomes somewhat narrow. The reason I brought up writing is one of the recent discoveries of mine with respect to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle is they never wrote anything. They spoke, and people around who could write wrote. Socrates could think.
Makes sense.
So that was.
Jesus of Nazareth was the same way, right? Never wrote anything.
Oh,
I thought he was a
good
carpenter.
point.
He was a carpenter.
And didn't he need like a little carpenter's tonight? I don't want to get that.
Nah.
But at least his written record.
Right.
One last thing.
Sure. Thank you for having me to your house.
Work today.
All this time I thought that was his house. He said that was his house? Probably lying.
Vegetable juice.
Let's go back.
Look what vegetable juice does.
When did that? The beginning of that. Was there any one aha moment in all these great thinkers? Did it happen before 2008? Was it after? That came up over, I know, many years. But when did you actually realize, hey, something new's got to be developed?
Yeah, that's great. Is that because again, I'm privileged enough to have people around me who've given lots of philanthropic gifts to institutions of higher learning, and when I said the impact, how do you judge the impact of your giving? And we sat down and said, no really new ideas have come out. And I realized that, of course, it hasn't come out because we've been looking at using science and mathematics, and it's the wrong tool. It's obvious.
Institutions that are set up and try to put forward knowledge and understanding and truth, should they take your money?
Derek Bach at Harvard said, taking money for good causes is a good thing.
So if Hitler took all the gold out of the teeth of the Jews and said, I want to give this to Heidelberg University to fund the Leibniz chairs so that I can study high energy physics, Derek Bach would say that was fine?
Again, these questions are questions where good people on both sides, like your Charlottesville.
What is up with that question? That's picked up.
Could differ. I don't know the answer to
So
these
tell
questions.
us the two. Give us the two answers. What the one answer why it shouldn't be, and then the one answer. Derek Bach says, "I'll essentially take cash from anybody because I got so many projects, so many good guys, and this is the way I'll do it. So I'm indifferent to where the cash comes from. Money's money, and if I got good guys, I'm the fiduciary that says these are good people and this is good research. Okay, I'll take the cash from any source, including you." What's the other argument?
Let me give you I know in my case,
Is your money dirty money?
if you look,
I'm sleep.
might just ask a question.
He
Is your
actually
money
was
dirty
his
money?
money dirty.
No, it's not.
Probably
So
is.
in fact,
Why is it not dirty money?
because I earned it, a heart.
But you earned it. Through,
I earned it legally.
We went back to this before. You earned
Yes.
it. You earned it, advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
Do you think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no
Why?
question. Because I think ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio.
Shoot, that remind me of Rick Ross. When Rick Ross said, I think D1 told him he could do better because of those negative lyrics, and he talking about, oh, what about all them diapers I bought? How about all those Christmases that I could afford, that they mama could afford for them? I was like, I guess it still doesn't make D1 wrong.
And ask them if Epstein should have helped these people.
If we
with their
walked in,
money.
if we walked in, you're a
that a fair
mathematician.
question?
You're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from a class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Tier 1's the high.
Tier 1? What
the
is
worst?
this?
No,
I gotta look all this
You're
up.
the lowest. Okay, tier 1. You're
Wait,
the lowest.
bring it back. Bring it back. What he saying?
He was coming from a class 3 sexual predator.
He says class 3 S predator, and what's the other one?
Tier 1.
What's tier
1. What is that?
I'm
The lowest?
I'm the lowest.
You're the
He said, "Oh, I'm
Tier
the
1, you're
lowest. I'm the lowest." I'd be like, I ain't at
But
all.
a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money.
Shoot, who the heck gonna say no though? If your child about to die of cancer and the money come from Jeffrey Epstein, who the heck gonna say no to the money? Shoot, who? Not me. Especially if I was in jail and it's old Jeffrey Epstein want to bail you out. I'm like, let's do it. Look, it ain't Suge Knight. Let's do it.
For my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them,
if
I told them
100%.
the devil
himself
said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for you.
No, I'm good on that one.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
Damn, that's a freaked up question. But hey, if they say Satan gonna bail me out, I'll just stay in jail. I just stay in jail.
But I
don't
do
trust
have a good
him.
mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because
Why would you
have all the
ask this
attributes.
dude that?
You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is
Was
somebody
the devil
knows
smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Satan is at the number 1 or 2 archangel. And the reason
Where's the proof of this?
he goes to hell and leads the rebellion.
That's a popular belief, but where's the actual scripture that says this? That he's like top 1 or 2. How we know Michael ain't smarter than him?
Is because he can't be the top guy. And his thing is, I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
I saw that in a movie once called American Dharma. I don't remember who said it. Okay? We have to go.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That was good.
Wait, what was the name of the movie? You said American Dahmer?
Well, the holidays have
I don't know, maybe something about Jeffrey Dahmer. Both their name Jeff. What the frick? We'll be back after an hour or two of commercial messages. Alright, we back from commercial break. I leave y'all with a verse or two, like I always do. Well, actually, today is 3. And this one pertains to what Steve Bannon was trying to do, which was expose this guy. But it was very difficult due to his indirect answering of the questions that were asked. So we got Ephesians 5:11 here, which is the NIV version, and it reads, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." So good job, Steve. Although the conversation says Steve did a terrible job at it, at interviewing this guy. They say his journalism was very sub. So we got a Hosea 4:6 here, and it says, what a KJV version. So this is that old English, kind of hard to read, but not for me. "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children." So forget your children. And you too. But anyways, not like that though, not like that. Ah, man. I wonder that Jeff dude had children. See, he had a lot of knowledge, right? But worldly knowledge. But did he have biblical knowledge, though? I don't know. I seen he cracked a joke a little bit on Jesus being a carpenter or some junk. But he stopped himself because he know that horde of Christians was going to run up in that conversation. Boy, they might run up on him on the street. What you said about the king? Nah, I'm just playing. But this is the final one right here. John 3:36 NLT. And it says, "And anyone who believes in God's Son has eternal life. Anyone who doesn't obey the Son will never experience eternal life, but remains under God's anger judgment." It's simple and clear cut as that. Hopefully, Jeff had his mind right and had his faith right. Because allegedly they say he out of here, but I don't know. Hopefully he had that right. I doubt it. I don't know. He was calling, I don't know who he was calling charlatans, which are basically people who think they got things figured out, but they don't. Basically frauds. I don't know who he was calling that. Hopefully he wasn't calling the people that follow the king that, because those are not charlatans. Charlatans are the opposite of that, in my opinion. But a pretty interesting interview it was. I give it a 6 out of 10. Since he was running for freaking Christians. He wasn't running from them though. He was freaking sidestepping them. Like, what the frick, man? Answer the freaking question. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me though. But still though, like, people wanted to know the direct answers. But hey, at least we got some lessons out of it. Lessons on physics, science, financial literacy, freaking biology. I wonder, did he do this in court in front of the judge? When the judge asked him this and asked him that, did he answer with a question about physics? About Sir Isaac Newton? No, sir, we asked about your dealings with this very sinful island and these alleged sinister acts that took place with underage persons, ages, I don't know what the age range is. I ain't gonna lie and make that up. But he real good at what he doing. You know, he real good at it. You know, he real skilled, you know, like a true politician. Oh, man. I know I be impeached my first day in, boy, because I keep it too real up there, boy. They impeach me the first day in. Because I'm just too real. I'm just too real. You know? Every time I talk to somebody I don't like, my finger on that red button, I'm like, nah, I'm playing. But anyways, I'm about to be up out of here, man. Peace be upon you all and blessings.